Oh, hello, my sweets. It's so good to connect with you in this way and to continue in our little baby tradition that happens in individual therapy and coaching, but is now starting to become a little bigger, which is exciting, is to look back on the month and look a little forward and maybe wrap together pieces and themes that came up in the therapeutic space in hopes that we don't feel alone, and also perhaps for some encouragement or maybe some practical tools or learning, and also some sprinkle of some spiritualism, right? Some psycho spiritual tools, which are both spiritual and also practical. So, one big theme that I saw this past month was rage. The place of rage. What is rage? How do I know it's rage? How do I get in touch with my rage? And the cards that have been coming up, it's been so interesting, both personally and in the therapeutic space. It's been Pentacles. Over and over Pentacles. In particular, Two of Pentacles. This is from the Next World Tarot deck, which is one of my favorite decks. It is well loved. Some of them have chew marks from my children. No, not as babies, like as 7-year-olds. They're literally eating them. They're digesting this, right? Pentacles. Pentacles are like stories. Tarot cards are like stories to me. And pentacles, they're earth. They're so much of our life's work, what we're here to do. Yes, they can be tied to materialism. But you know me, I don't like to read from a capitalistic sort of framework. I like it to be here and now instead of prescriptive. Pentacles remind me very much, I'm going to set this down and then just tell you a story. They remind me very much of, I will have this beautiful conversation with a friend, and it could be cathartic and lovely, and our souls are present, or I could have this beautiful session with somebody or guide someone through ketamine, a ketamine ceremony, and we're touching the subconscious and we're in it, and it's just, that gorgeous, squishy, ethereal. I always say that word wrong. I always need your help with words, y'all. You know that. And then I come home and I open the door to my home, and my kids greet me with, "Hey, I'm hungry. Can I have a snack? When is dinner?" The dog is jumping on me, right? I'm like, snap back into real life. And those moments used to freak me out a little bit. Like, it felt like such a crash. And of course, the more and more I get in touch with my nervous system and have a toned, vagus nerve, which I love to talk about, super sexy stuff. I realize that is part of this journey of being a human, is having a soul and having these experiences that get us in touch with our subconscious, our higher self, these realizations and beautiful moments where things feel right in the world, and you kind of get a glimpse of the bigger picture of what you're here to do, your life's work. And then you're pulled back into what it means to be a human. In the crassest of ways, I often think of, we are capable of so much. And then, right, we still have to, take poops and take showers and floss our teeth and go to the doctor and take care of these, literal vessels. And also, pentacles remind me of the day-to-day practices of self-love. So, not self-care in this big way of, commodified way of buying this thing, taking this thing, purchasing this thing, having to secure this thing in order to get a feeling of self-love and self-wellness. I mean the day-to-day, which Two of Pentacles reminds me of too. The day-to-day offerings to yourself, to others, that remind you of your humanness and that keep you in the spot of not being so dried out, of not being martyred, right? There's a lot here, which reminds me of rage. You know, in the therapeutic space, when I hear someone vulnerably sharing that they feel stuck, or they give and they give and they give, and no one gives back like them, no one loves the way that they love, I often ask, what is your relationship to rage? And I've been honored to get a lot of honest answers back, which is, I'm scared of it. Or I saw it in my parent and I didn't, and so it's something I don't want to touch, it's something I shove, it's something I avoid. And then we kind of get this dichotomy of it's either explosive or it's just a lot of shoving, right? It's a lot of insular. I fucking love rage. Maybe a little too much. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm all saucy. I was raised by a man who was never in his frontal lobe, unfortunately, and expressed a lot of rage at himself, at the world, at us, at my mother. It was really scary to be in a presence of that unfiltered rage. I'm a big fan of, if something is a common occurrence between all of us, a common sensation, a common feeling, a common thought, then it is part of our human existence. Pentacles, right? And so in that way, it's not good or bad. And I think of rage is meant to move us. It's meant to indicate that something isn't quite right. Rage is welcomed. Rage is never meant to stay within us. And I think that's the scary part. We don't know what to do. So it reminds me like hot potato, right? Like it's either so in or it's so out. And I'll give you a hint. I love asking people, how did you get your anger out when you were a kid? Like, how'd you do that? And I get a lot of like, I broke sticks, I hit things with stick, I jumped up and down, I threw my body around, I screamed, I cried. And I usually give like a somatic task of like, can we play a little there? Can you go down somewhere, throw rocks in a river? There is a somatics, actually, I'm going to give you this at the end of this, that you can try, because somatics is actually not that complicated. It's very intuitive and it's natural in our mammalian bodies to have emotions and reconciliation through movement. So we'll have that a little snippet at the end here. But let's discuss rage. Let's talk about why rage is welcomed in this space. It's welcomed because we have a lot to be rageful for. We are living in a time that is quite scary, and there's a lot happening to our bodies that are signaling this isn't right, and we need a time to protect, to move about in our world with safety. And how do you do that when you know it's not safe for everyone? There is a lot to be rageful about. There is this need for our rage. I often see when we're trying to be very, very polite and intellectual about something that is really, really fucked up, or a pain, or a mistreatment, and we want to make it really nice and neat, and we want to say the right thing and act the right way. And I understand there's safety in that. I totally get that. And there's times we have to be careful who we show our rage to. But rage is righteous. Rage is radical. Dr. Jennifer Mullins talks about a grandmotherly rage. There's a lot of rage in my line. A lot of rage. A lot of injustice and uncertainty and things that were not fair. And I've seen my line ingest this rage in ways where they've hurt the people they've loved the most, or there's been too much drinking, too much numbing, too much. And I think rage is an opportunity for us to say, I'm not going to put that on my back anymore. Going to access my natural birthright to have some of this fire. I remember, I like parts of EMDR. I like incorporating it with other interventions. But when I was doing EMDR for myself as a client, I remember this moment. I had this moment where I imagined myself huge, like a giant adult, and was just smashing the house I grew up in and taking down power lines and just going like Hulk on it, right? Like I was just so big and I was full of rage and anger, and it was burning so bright. And then once I exhausted that rage, what came in my image was I was a child in a fetal position. And it was so apparent that rage had to go out and do something, right? It didn't really go and destroy my child at home, but it was beautiful in this image. And then I got to see myself, I got to see the grief, and I got to see the pain, and then I got to attend to that, and I got to tell myself, of course you're mad. Of course this doesn't feel good. Your rage is welcomed here, and let me hold you. Let's go eat a snack. Let's go do something different. Let's go attend to the underlying emotion that we needed the rage to release to get to. So again, coming back to that stuckness, very often our rage is a key into some of these deeper wells of grief and loss and longing and pain, which are all part of your story and your existence as a human in this time and space. So I tell this to clients a lot too, as I'm saying to you, your rage is welcomed. And if you don't know how to express rage, I'm going to give you a little somatics, but this is where I love movement and I love journaling and music. My husband and I just recently went to this concert, and they played the Wood Brothers. We went to the Mission Ballroom in Denver, and the singer, Oliver Wood, was singing this beautiful song, and he said, will you all just sway back and forth together? Somatics. So here we are, a group of 5,000, 8,000, I don't know how many people. Numbers, y'all. We were swaying together, and it was magical. It was like church. What I wish church was. We were just moving back and forth, and it felt hopeful. And in this time, so many of their songs were touching on unrest and uncertainty and pain and injustice. And then you had this mass of people swaying back and forth and feeding off each other's energy. It was really quite beautiful. So be creative in your rage. I think we think rage is like fire and anger, and I gave that Hulk example, but I think sometimes it's so individualized. People rage in different ways. So a couple questions you can ask yourself. What is my relationship to rage? What was I taught about rage? Am I in tune with my rage? How do I be curious about my rage? And a little somatics I want to give you is getting a tennis ball, or like some sort of fluffy ball. I've had clients use like their dog toys because they're in apartments, and literally squeezing it and then throwing it against the wall. And what we're looking for is that thud. We're looking for that release. We're looking for some power behind something. Letting it hit, it can come back to you and you can catch it. You could throw it up and catch it. You can throw it down and then catch it. We want this idea that something moves through us, out of us, and what comes returned has a lot of fruit, has something. I think what happens a lot is people are so nervous their rage won't do anything or it'll do harm, that they get completely out of touch with it. And there's something about this somatics, just give it a try, of throwing, catching, release, catching, release, and that thud, that gives us some understanding that we actually have a lot of choice and power in our rage. And some of that release is necessary to get to what's underneath and to decide what's next, to make choices that are responsive and kind to your nervous system. and also give you some power. Rage is powerful. It doesn't have to be about fear. Regulated rage, mwah, beautiful. Okay, so remember this. I think of this with Two of Pentacles. I think of what we offer to one another. And when we do that, they call this intersection. Oh, here I am over here. And I love this idea. I love bringing this card into rage, because often having conversations and somatics and experiences with others in their rage, I don't feel scared of their rage. I feel extremely empowered. It's inspiring. It's doesn't feel like it does anything to me and that I have to protect myself. It does quite the opposite. There's something beautiful about your rage being expressed in this clean way. Allows me to say, yeah, my body was telling me that wasn't right either. And so then we begin to not have a conversation with these systems that are awful, and we begin to have conversation person to person. What do we do? How do we live in day to day? How do you attend to your grief and the pain? Two of Pentacles. Oh, as always, I see you, I hear you. I am so inspired by all of you, and I send you the best thoughts for May, and am excited to continue to be a part of your story as well. Love to you, sweets. Bye.